Well, guys, today is finally the day. Today, I will finally be going over my top 5 and bottom 5 Stephen King adaptations. Welcome back to BG's Books. I'm Mr. BG, and today I'm going to be doing a video where I cover Stephen King adaptations. I, of course, am no stranger to adaptations on this channel. Of course, I made like 1 or 2 videos talking about books that should get adaptations. But today, and then obviously I recently did the movies you didn't know were based on books. That was adaptations as well. But anyway, I decided to change that just a little bit, and instead I will be talking fully about the movie adaptations of Stephen King's work versus books that you didn't know movies were based on, or, whatever. So anyway, how this goes is that I have 10 adaptations here. Some of them are movies. Well, actually, all of them are movies, but not all of them are theatrical released movies. And so basically, I'm going to go like worst, best, and work my way down from 5 to 1. And so basically, this is going to be a very controversial video. I'm just going ahead and warning you right now. This will be very controversial, especially I think my number 1 worst choice, as well as some of my best choices. I don't know. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, we are going to do this by starting with the 5 worst, and then the 5 best, and then of course working our way down. And we're specifically talking Stephen King adaptations. So anyway, I can just feel the dislikes and the hate comments coming in. Oh boy. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this video regardless. But without further ado, let's get right into the rankings. So coming in at the 5th worst Stephen King adaptation, I have The Long Walk. So I know that this is going to be a bit controversial, especially since The Long Walk seems to be relatively well reviewed. I've seen the reviews on it. It is generally a positively received movie. But the thing that really brings it down for me is just the ending of the movie. Because in case you don't know, the movie decided to change the ending of the book, not because the ending of the book was problematic or anything, and so they had to change it to not make it problematic, similar to the newest Running Man movie. But basically, they just kind of changed it because why not? It's a change. And so as a fan of the book, as a book purist, I guess, that just really angered me. By the way, there will be no spoilers in this video, so there's that. But I'm just going to say that the ending of The Long Walk is different from the ending from the book. And I thought the ending of the book was so dark and bleak and well done. And then the movie just decided to throw all that out for change reasons, I guess. Anyway, so overall, the Long Walk movie was actually decent. Like, for the most of the movie, it was actually pretty good. It was pretty accurate outside of a couple things here and there, which, I expected. But the ending is really what kind of ruined it for me. So it's not like a terrible movie, but I definitely wish that they would have kept the ending from the book, because that would have fit not only the tone of the movie, but also just the movie in general so much better than what they actually did. Yeah! Shifting gears a little bit, we have now reached the 5th best Stephen King movie, in my opinion. And this will also be very controversial, because I especially know that it isn't as loved as the previous one. But my 5th favorite Stephen King movie is It Chapter 2. I know, bit of a wild choice, but you're like, Mr. BJ, I thought you liked the book. Why are you praising a movie for going against the book so much? And while I do agree that this movie has problems, specifically the fact that this movie has a lot of flashbacks to their child years, even though that's specifically what the first movie was supposed to do, I specifically enjoy It Chapter 2 for the same reason that I didn't particularly enjoy The Long Walk, for the ending. So unlike the ending to The Long Walk, the book, which I thought was perfect and very fitting, I thought the ending to It, the book, was quite underwhelming, as a lot of people will say. And so they decided to change that ending to the movie to make it like more upbeat and happy, and I like the change. I really like the change. Also, I love the actors for this one. You got James McAvoy, you got Jessica Chastain, you got James Ransone, rest in peace, and then you got Bill Hader and all them. Isaiah Mustafa, who's also the Old Spice guy, which is funny. And then like the adult cast is just such a great cast, especially knowing how good the child actors were in the first movie, and so the adult cast just really like extend their characters. And this movie also covers my favorite part about it, the book, which is the adult years, which I know is also controversial because the child years, they're the longer sections of the book. They're the ones that are more enjoyable. They're not as convoluted, I guess, but I just enjoyed the adult side of the book more, probably because I'm an adult now. But anyway, so yeah, It Chapter 2 just has a really good cast of adult characters, and despite it not being super accurate to the book at several points, I do love the ending that they decided to change for the movie. I felt that Brian that brought the movie to a really satisfying conclusion and ended the story on a much happier note than the book and the 90s miniseries did. Coming in for the fourth place spot for the worst is Firestarter 2022. So Firestarter 2022 is of course a remake of the original Firestarter starring Drew Barrymore back in 1984. And I actually like the original, but the thing I don't like about the remake that they did is that basically the 84 movie was like almost a shot for shot adaptation of the book for the most part, and then the remake just decided to just do its own thing. It's like they changed so many things. I mean, the score is pretty good. John Carpenter's score is absolutely fire in that movie. I mean, his scores are always fire, but Firestarter is also fire, pun intended. So of course, Firestarter is no exception for the bad scores. But the thing I dislike about Firestarter 2022 is just that they changed like almost everything. It's like the book is kind of like a running away story, trying to escape the government and stuff. And while 2022 does have that, it has a lot more time before that happened instead of dropping us right into the action like the book and original movie did. So some people may like that, some people won't. I wasn't keen on it. I wasn't too big on it. And then yeah, so really the biggest problem with the movie is just that it's incredibly inaccurate to the point where I can't even really see the original story in there at all. It's like it's very loose. So, yeah, so I mean, I guess it's not a terrible movie either, but it's just not accurate at all for the most part. And as I said, as a book purist, I prefer more accurate adaptations over anything else. And so, unfortunately, Firestarter 2022 follows the very long trend of book adaptations that are actually just doing their own thing. So, unfortunately, that's how it is. Yeah! Pivoting to a lighter note, my fourth best Stephen King movie is The Life of Chuck. So The Life of Chuck just came out last year. I don't know how many people saw it because it wasn't like marketed super well. So it was considered a flop in the box office, but it's actually just really good. I mean, of course, Mike Flanagan kind of knocks everything he does out of the park, except for maybe Carrie. We'll see. But anyway, so The Life of Chuck is basically like a word for word adaptation of the short story that Stephen King wrote. And I say word for word because the book is like has narration, of course, because it's the book, and then the movie has that narration as well. So I thought that was a little fun touch. You hardly see that in movies anymore. The last time I remember seeing narration in a movie was like something from the 80s, like The Breakfast Club or something, and even that was just like minor at the beginning and very end. So Life of Chuck basically just tells the story of this guy named Chuck. It starts with his death, and then it goes backwards into his origins as a child, how he loved to dance, how he decided to live life to the fullest. So overall, it's just a very uplifting story about living life the best you possibly can, even though you may not have that much time to live it. So yeah, it's basically just very positive. It just says live your life while you can. And Yeah, so I really loved it. We all loved it in my house. So yeah, Life of Chuck is just a great movie, and I really have nothing bad to say about it. It's just a phenomenal movie that is incredibly accurate to the short story, and I can't really think of anything that would be different about it. So there's that. Coming in at the number three spot for the worst Stephen King adaptations is Firestarter 2 Rekindled. So, first of all, yes, there is a second Firestarter adaptation on this list. I think that says something about how Firestarter has been handled by adapters trying to adapt it. But also, probably most of you guys don't even know that Firestarter 2 exists. I certainly didn't when I started reading Firestarter. I knew of the original Drew Barrymore movie and the newer one from 2022 that I already covered, but I found out that there was a sequel called Rekindled, and I was like, what in the world? So I bought it, I watched it, and I was very underwhelmed to say the least. So instead of being like a direct sequel to Firestarter, the Drew Barrymore movie, which it's marketed as, by the way, it's really just kind of it opens with a loose retelling of some events that happened in the original movie, although not very good. And then it picks up like 15, 20 or so years later with Charlie as an adult, still struggling to control her fire powers. Meanwhile, the villain from the book Rainbird is actually still alive after being burned alive in the first movie. And, is after her. And then they introduce some like weird, powerful children and stuff. It's like this one gets weird, yo. It's like I don't even know how to describe it, and also it's just way too long. It was a TV movie or a mini series, I guess. So it's like almost 3 hours long as well. It's like if it was actually good, the 3 hours wouldn't have been that bad, but it was just like so boring and slow paced and just weird that literally about halfway through it, I was just like, I just want this to be over already. So yeah, the third worst one is Firestarter 2 Rekindled, a movie that almost no one probably even knew existed. But of course, it can only get worse from here. And how, you will see momentarily. But anyway, those are my feelings on Firestarter 2 Rekindled. I cannot recommend it. It is a chore to watch, and it is just not good. Yeah! And then coming in at the third place for best Stephen King adaptation is Christine. So you guys should know by now how much I love Christine the book. In fact, when I did a review on it, I mentioned that it was my third favorite Stephen King book, as well as my third favorite book of all time. And then I did the same thing in my top 10 Stephen King books and top 10 books of all time. So you guys know that I love the book, and the movie's no exception. And so I watched the movie just after finishing the book originally, and while the movie does have some significant changes from the book, it more of like abridges things and takes out some of the more complex stuff that a movie would have trouble showing that a book has all the goodness in the world to show. So even though the movie isn't like the most accurate thing in the world, you can still tell that the story is relatively the same. Most of the plot beats are there. Most of the characters are intact. In fact, I even think that the movie actually improves on the character of Arnie versus the book, because Arnie in the book was kind of whiny in some places and stuff, and then the movie kind of made him a more fleshed out character, if that makes any sense. But anyway, yeah, I just love this movie. John Carpenter, of course, is incredible with everything he does, except for Halloween. No, we're not going to get into that. But anyway, so like he's done The Thing, he's done Escape from New York, he's done a lot of really good things, and Christine is, of course, one of those good things. And yeah, like I said, even though Christine isn't the most accurate movie on this list, I still think it is a very good movie. And if you just want to watch like a 2 hour movie, slightly under 2 hour movie about just like a car going around killing people, then Christine is definitely the movie for you. It is a whole lot of fun. And of course, like I mentioned with Firestarter 2022, John Carpenter's score for Christine is just absolutely incredible. So yeah, please go watch Christine and read the book if you have not already. Both are very incredible, but the movie specifically is really good. coming in at the second worst Stephen King adaptation is A Return to Salem's Lot. So, Salem's Lot is no stranger to adaptations at this point. It has 4 of them currently, the most recent of which just having been released back in October of 2024 on HBO Max. I made a whole video about that to discuss that decision. But anyway, so the second version of Salem's Lot was actually the first theatrically released version. Well, like the miniseries originally got like a brief theatrical release, but this one was actually released theatrically, and it was called A Return to Salem's Lot. And so I was thinking, okay, so at the end of the original miniseries, Ben Mears and Mark Petrie kind of go off to go hunt vampires in other places. So I'm thinking maybe this movie kind of picks up where that left off and sees them returning to Salem's Lot to hunt down the rest of the vampires there. Nope. The movie doesn't do that at all. Instead, it focuses on this one photographer guy and his really profane son for some reason moving into Salem's Lot after this guy's like aunt or someone dies, and then they realize that the town is taken over by a new brand of vampires outside of the ones that Ben and Mark fought in the first miniseries. And then it kind of goes from there. And this one just doesn't even have a semblance. The only thing I can really tell that's the same is just that they have Salem's Lot in the name. Nothing like connects these two. Ben Mears doesn't even have a mention. Mark Petrie doesn't either. It's like really the only nice thing I can say about it is that it was made in the 80s, and even that's not that good, because even though I love 80s things, I will defend 80s things my entire life. This movie's just bad. In fact, I would say this is the only 80s movie I would ever consider to be bad. So this movie is just terrible. It literally has nothing to do with the first Salem's Lot miniseries outside of name alone. And the vampires are completely different. They have like reflections this time and whatever. Anyway, it's a whole mess, and it is quite campy. And while I do love campy stuff, especially campy horror films, I mean, Jason Lives is my favorite horror film for a reason. A Return to Salem's Lot just isn't even that funny. It's more annoying. Like, if you didn't watch the miniseries or read the book like I have, you would probably find it just okay, maybe a little weird, but kind of fine. I despise it. It is an absolutely terrible movie, and I cannot believe that it got the green light to be made in the first place. Anyway, so yeah, it is just a really bad movie, and I would recommend that you spare yourselves the horror of watching that like I did. So yeah, at number 2 in the worst spot, we have A Return to Salem's Lot, but of course we have one movie that is even worse than that, which we will get to momentarily. Yeah! And then coming in at the number 2 spot for best Stephen King adaptations is Misery. So you guys probably figured that Misery would show up on this list sooner rather than later. I mean, Misery is such an iconic film, and it was made by such an iconic director in Rob Reiner. Rest in peace, Rob Reiner. That was very sad what happened to you. But anyway, so yeah, Misery is just everything you want out of a psychological thriller / horror movie. I mean, it's only about an hour and 47 minutes, so it's very short. It has very iconic scenes. And another thing is that it's just also very accurate to the book. It's like, of course, the book is longer and has more stuff in it that the movie didn't cover, but the stuff that the movie does cover are basically straight out of the book. Even the hobbling scene, even though that's different than the one in the book, the hobbling scene is very iconic for a reason. And it's like Misery, I just cannot run out of good things to say about Misery because it's just so incredible, and I cannot think of very many bad things, if at all, to say about it. So yeah, Misery is just an incredibly phenomenal movie, and I highly recommend everyone go watch it. I've literally seen it like 5 times, I think. It's such a good movie. But yeah, so please go read Misery, go watch Misery, go celebrate Misery. It is one of the greatest movies ever made. It's my 17th. All right, and then coming in at the number 1 absolute worst Stephen King adaptation out there. It brings me no pleasure to even mention this on my channel, but it is Carrie from 1976. So you're probably thinking, whoa, what in the world? That's a great movie. What are you talking about? Are you stupid? And first of all, no. And second of all, no, I hate this movie. This movie is very bad, and it comes down to one thing: Brian De Palma. Brian De Palma was the director of this movie, and he could not have been there could not have been a worse choice to adapt Carrie than this man. So Brian De Palma is known for having very like explicit movies, very graphic, very like nudity filled, I guess you could say, very language heavy. And while the graphicness or the violence and the language could be debated, this movie is definitely like one of the most sleaziest movies I've ever seen. It's like literally the locker scene, I think, is like 6 minutes long of just like fully naked women. And I'm not saying that to be like a pervert or whatever. I'm just saying that that's like really gross. It was really personal. And I also heard this thing that Brian De Palma kind of, uh, I guess, pushed the girls a little bit to do the naked scene because they were originally going to do it in towels. But he said that it was like in their contract or whatever to do it naked. So they did it naked. And then they did the towel thing for the TV cut anyway. But anyway, outside of that, there's a lot of other problems I have with this movie. First of all, it's just not the most accurate Carrie movie in the world. It's like there are some things in the movie where I can see why Brian De Palma would want to do that. But for the most part, the movie is just basically a very cheesy 70s low budget version of what I want the book to be. And also, the actors just do not work for me at all. Piper Laurie, who plays Margaret White, is the only one that I actually like here. Nancy Allen, who ended up marrying Brian De Palma after he met her on set while she was naked, by the way. So there's that. And then Sissy Spacek, she plays Carrie. She's iconic. I honestly don't think that she was ever a right choice for Carrie at all. I know you all are going to come after me in the comments, but Sissy Spacek, I believe she's a good actress, but she's just not a good Carrie. Her Carrie does not do anything for me. Sue Snell is basically a nothing character, even though she was like the second best character in the book. And then Tommy Ross, I don't know how, but the way that William Catt plays Tommy Ross just seems kind of creepy to me. I was never able to figure out why. He just seems kind of creepy during the prom scene and stuff. I don't know. I just always had the off-putting feeling about him. Anyway, outside of that, the prom scene is also very tame compared to what happens in not only some other movies, but also the book. And like, this movie is very tame compared to the book. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but the movie is just very, I guess, amateurish, you could say. And then also, let's not get started on the editing. The editing is either way too fast, and then remember, there's that scene where the guys are arguing about their tuxes in the tux store, and they're just speeds up like, it's like that's an actual thing that happens in the movie for some reason. And then my least favorite scene, the carrot cutting scene, is in that movie as well, and I just found that so beyond stupid. So anyway, this movie is just a victim with bad casting, a very poor choice of directing, and some very lazy and choppy editing that just really puts it out for me. On top of that, I just don't think it's very good. I mean, I tried to give it a chance. I've seen it like twice, and both times I'm like, yeah, this is terrible. Which should be weird because I love the book. You guys know that Carrie is like my favorite thing in the whole world. So if I should feel anything about the original Carrie movie, it should be one of the greatest movies of all time. But it just isn't. In fact, Carrie is not just the worst Stephen King movie, and it is not just the worst horror movie ever made. It is the worst movie, period. There is not a worse movie I've ever seen than this flaming dumpster fire that is Carrie 1976. That movie is unabashedly awful. It has awful acting choices, a terrible director, and the movie prioritizes sleaze and style over actual substance. Some of the stuff from the book is there. In fact, I'd even say that the way Margaret dies in that movie is better than she goes in the book, and that's like the only compliment I can give it. Other than that, this movie is just absolutely, unapologetically, infuriatingly terrible, and I cannot get it out of my mind, even though I have not seen it in like 4 years. But I hate it so much. I remember it so vividly, though, and I just do not like it at all. If you have not seen it, do not waste your time on it. please go watch literally anything else. Literally anything is better than Carrie, but do not watch Carrie because it is the single worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah! And then coming in at the number one best Stephen King movie is Carrie 2002. So, you're probably confused. How on earth do you despise the 76 movie but love the 2002 movie? And I will explain that. The 2002 movie is actually like the book. It's like the book that I know and love. It has so many scenes that the other movies cut out either for time or because the director just didn't want to have that scene. And another thing is that it also just changes the ending. So you guys are probably well aware of the fact by now that I do not like the ending of Carrie. I made a whole video about why I don't like it. I despise the ending. I'd even say it's the worst book ending I've ever read so far. But the TV movie actually changes that. Yeah, the 2002 movie changes that. And I would prefer literally anything other than the book's ending to the book's ending. So the fact that it didn't end like that, in fact it ends more positively, I do like that as well. And then also the casting for this movie was just like near perfect. It's like Angela Bettis is the perfect Carrie. Patricia Clarkson, while she does a serviceable job as Margaret White, she cannot compare to Piper Laurie's over-the-top performance. And that's like the only praise I'm giving the original movie again. But Patricia Clarkson, she does a very good and decently grounded Margaret White. This version of Carrie also has the best version of Tommy Ross, played by Tobias Miller in the movie. He just felt like the Tommy from the book for me. And then this is just kind of one of my gripes. This movie keeps the character of Tina Blake intact. In fact, makes her the most complex out of any Tina Blake because she wasn't even in the original movie to begin with. And then in the 2013 movie, she was basically just like a cameo appearance for the most part. But so this one gave her an actual character. And then this version of Chris is just like, the worst thing ever. This had the abusive version of Billy Nolan, which was also absent from the other versions of the story. And so like basically outside of like Patricia Clarkson as Margaret White and Candace McClure, who did a pretty good job of Sue Snell, but the best Sue Snell was in the 2013 movie. This movie's basically perfectly casted. Even Raina Sofer as Miss Desjardins, who's the actual name of the gym teacher, not Miss Collins like in the original movie. Anyway, so yeah, this movie is perfectly casted. And I guess one bad thing I could say about it is that the CGI isn't the best, but it was 2002 on a TV budget. Even movies from 2002 don't look that good. I mean, look at the original Spider-Man. That came out the same year with a much larger budget, and that CGI wasn't the best either. But like, if you're willing to look past that CGI, because you realize that CGI isn't the entire thing that makes a movie, you'll realize that Carrie 2002 is actually a very faithful retelling of Stephen King's original book, with some changes here and there that ultimately add to the story and an ending that fully changes my mind about the ending of the story, and I love it. So really, the perfect Stephen King movie for me is Carrie 2002. I don't think there can be a Stephen King movie that tops it. And I mean, yeah, Carrie 2002 is just a really solid movie. It is made in 2002. It is painfully obvious with like the dialogue and the look and stuff of it. But if you can look past the time era that it was made in, it's actually a really solid movie with a really solid cast that changes a very bad part of the book that I thought was pretty good as well. So yeah, overall, the Carrie 2002 TV movie is my favorite Stephen King adaptation, and it is the superior version of Carrie outside of the book. So there you go. So not only am I aware that this video is going to be very controversial, especially for some of the opinions that I have, but I also want to address that I have not seen every Stephen King movie, nor have I read every single one of his books. For example, I've heard that Dreamcatcher from 2003 is considered to be one of his worst movies. In fact, he even hates it himself, Stephen King does, along with his own book. And on the opposite end, I've heard that The Shawshank Redemption and Stand By Me are considered two of his best, but because I have not read Different Seasons, which has those in there, I have not seen those yet. So So keep in mind, this is just all my opinion currently, and I am thinking about updating the list like months or years down the line when I have watched more Stephen King movies and read more of his books to see if anything has changed at all. Because I'm hearing that Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption are like absolutely fantastic. I just have not seen them yet. And then yeah, conversely, Dreamcatcher, uh, Maximum Overdrive, I actually have a soft spot for that. And then like other ones are like the cheap TV made ones; those aren't good. But yeah, so I will definitely watch more Stephen King movies in the future and then see if they deserve a place on this list. And then I would make another one if, of course, I need to. But anyway, so that is my list. That is my opinion. Please don't attack me too hard. But yeah, guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about my top 5 and bottom 5 Stephen King adaptations. Again, I'm very aware that this will be controversial, but I'm sure that some, if not all of you, have your own controversial opinions as well. So let's just all be civil, and please don't attack me for not liking the original Carrie. But anyway, yeah, as I said, that is the end of the video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already. I have surpassed 400 subscribers, so now the next goal is 500 subscribers, so let's try and get to 500 subscribers. And also let me know, what are your top 5 and bottom 5 Stephen King adaptations? I would love to know. I'm always looking for recommendations. But yeah, in the meantime, I've been Mr. BG. This has been BG's Books, and I will see you guys in the next video.